My name is Eliyahu Moshe ben David, and at 76 years old, I've dedicated more than half a century to serving as a rabbi. Throughout my life, I steadfastly rejected the idea that Jesus was the Messiah, a belief I defended in countless discussions. Yet, everything changed following a near-death experience on December 25, 2023, due to a severe car accident that completely altered my perspective. Allow me to introduce myself. I hail from a long lineage of Jews, descendants of the Levites who served in the temple. From a tender age, I was imbued with the gravity of this sacred legacy and was nurtured to uphold it. After my education at the yeshiva, my spiritual journey led me to Israel, where I spent many formative years and where my son was born in Jerusalem. These years deepened my Jewish identity and reinforced my belief in awaiting the Messiah's arrival. To me, Judaism was more than a heritage, it was the essence of my being. Throughout my life, I endeavored to reflect my devotion to God in my actions. However, on December 25, 2023, an incident shook the very core of my faith and cast light on an unforeseen path. The day began typically, the kind that was meant to conclude tranquilly. It was chilly, and I was merely kilometers from home driving. Suddenly, the vehicle ahead halted abruptly. I reacted, but the icy road betrayed me, leading to a collision with another car. An instant of impact, a haunting silence, then darkness enveloped everything. When consciousness returned, I found myself in a realm utterly alien. Initially, I believed it to be a dream, yet this was far from any dream. The atmosphere was dense and oppressive, shrouded in a darkness so intense it seemed almost physical, interlaced with despair and remorse. Initially, confusion reigned. I felt detached from reality, struggling to grasp my surroundings. It soon became clear this was no dream, as cries of anguish and whispers filled with rage and grief echoed around me. Each voice bore the profound agony of a soul condemned to eternal suffering. As I descended, I fell slowly, inexorably, into what seemed an endless chasm. Shapes and figures began to form out of the surrounding darkness, revealing scenes far more terrifying than any depiction of hell I had read about in sacred texts. Enormous, grotesque entities appeared, merging into what I first believed to be the walls of a cavern. Yet these walls throbbed with life, and I realized with horror they were composed of flesh. Faces embedded within screamed without sound, their features etched in eternal torment. An unseen force pulled me deeper, dragging me toward an abyss that, though seemingly bottomless, was fraught with rage, pain, and regret. Every cry and groan resonated within me, drawing me deeper into a nightmare from which there was no awakening. Among those tormented visages, I recognized faces, esteemed rabbis and mentors who had shaped my spiritual journey. Witnessing their suffering in such a dreadful place was both startling and heartbreaking. If these were the men I had held in high regard, what hope remained for me? At that moment, the grim reality struck me. I was indeed in hell. When my descent finally halted, I could fully perceive the horror of my surroundings. I found myself standing in a vast landscape of fiery valleys, where flames danced and roared as if alive. The heat engulfed me, burning not only my body but also my soul, scorching me to the core. This infernal expanse swarmed with shadowy figures, creatures that were neither fully human nor beast. They contorted in endless pain, their twisted shapes mirroring the agony of tortured spirits. Their wails pierced the air, each scream unveiling deeper layers of sorrow and remorse. Among these tormented souls, I recognized prominent rabbis, men who had devoted their lives to divine service and taught me the sacred scriptures. Yet here they were, bound in the abyss of hell. Witnessing their plight dismantled all my previous convictions about piety and faith. This moment marked only the beginning of profound revelations that would forever alter my understanding of life, death, and belief. As I drew closer, the faces of these figures sharpened, their expressions laden with unmistakable anguish. The sight of these once wise and revered individuals in such despair was devastating. One face in particular haunted me, a rabbi who had been my mentor since my youth, guiding me through the scriptures at yeshiva. Now, his countenance bore only the marks of despair and regret. I moved closer, driven by a desperate need to ask, "Why are you here? How is this possible?" But before I could utter a word, one of them spoke, his voice raspy, laden with immense sorrow. We were mistaken. The Messiah did come as promised, but we turned him away. We were blinded by our convictions. Then another voice added, "We failed to grasp God's true plan. We held onto the law so tightly and rejected the Savior he provided. Our blindness was our downfall." Their admissions reverberated around me, shattering something deep inside. The bedrock of my beliefs, to which I had unwaveringly dedicated myself, now fractured under the burden of these truths. Confronted with the reality that these esteemed men were here, I was compelled to question everything I knew about God's truth. Amidst this dark, despair-filled chasm, a sudden shaft of light sliced through the gloom. It began as a mere speck in the distance, but rapidly expanded, bathing everything in its brilliant glow. This light cut through the dense shadows, chasing away the heavy darkness that had smothered me. Its purity was staggering, and although I shielded my eyes from its intensity, it brought no pain, only a profound sense of peace washed over me. Straining my eyes towards the source of this light, a figure materialized. I immediately sensed his extraordinary nature. His presence defied earthly understanding. His face beamed with a luminescence that was both awe-inspiring and soothing. A palpable serenity flowed from him, touching the very core of my being. He stepped forward, his eyes locking onto mine. In that instant, I felt completely understood. Every facet of my existence, my deepest fears, my lifelong regrets, and the burdens I had borne were all laid bare before him. Tears streamed down my face involuntarily. Then he spoke, and his voice was unlike any I had ever heard. Rich, comforting, yet authoritative. "I have come to show you the truth. I called to you, but you did not heed. Today I reveal what you have refused to see. I am here to save you and to make you a beacon for your people." His words cut deeply, compelling me to examine the entirety of my life. My devotion to God, my years spent studying in yeshiva, and my pursuit of sanctity in Israel. My entire spiritual journey flashed before my eyes. Yet, in those memories, I also recalled the emptiness that often lingered despite my fervent efforts. Despite all my striving, I had never felt truly connected to God in the way I had yearned for. The figure moved closer, extending his hand towards me. "Listen to me," he implored. "Salvation does not come from your efforts. It comes through me. God loves you and has sent me to save you, but the choice remains yours." His words echoed in my mind. All my life I had strived to please God, yet I had never grasped that his love was already bestowed upon me. Now, in the presence of this figure, the burden of my regrets and errors seemed to melt away in the brilliance of his light. A flicker of doubt crossed my mind for a moment. What if I don't accept this? The thought resonated within me, but as if he could discern my inner turmoil, he spoke again. "This darkness, it is born from pride and your choices. However, I can lead you out of here. I will not only save you, but I will also give you a purpose. You will illuminate the path for your people and guide them." At that juncture, I faced a pivotal decision. I could stay shrouded in this dark, remorseful abyss, or I could fully surrender to God and accept the redemption offered to me. My hands shook as I hesitated, but through my tears I murmured, "What must I do?" "Just believe in me," he responded. "Release your burdens. Salvation does not lie within your grasp. It is a gift I extend to you. I am here to liberate you." His assurance washed over me like a wave of peace. Tentatively, I reached out and clasped his hand. In that instant, everything transformed. The wails of anguish receded, the darkness dissipated, and the heavy load on my spirit lifted. For the first time, I felt genuinely liberated, poised at the beginning of a new journey, a life of faith that promised to redefine everything I had ever known. When I opened my eyes, I was met not by the divine light that had pierced the darkness of hell, but by the stark, fluorescent glare of hospital ceiling lights. Gradually, the tangible reality around me came into sharper focus. The faint beeping of monitors, the distant murmur of doctors, and the sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air. I had survived the crash. Physically, I was unscathed, but my soul was heavy with the visions I had witnessed, the haunting cries from hell, the anguish of the rabbis, and most significantly, the resonating words of Jesus. Everything had irrevocably changed. As I lay in the hospital bed, I found myself revisiting each moment of the experience. Was this truly salvation, or would that engulfing darkness ever return? I had been drawn from the brink by the light of Jesus. But what was my next step? The past clung to me, a shadow from which I could not easily detach. My years in the yeshiva, the teachings of revered rabbis, and my lifelong commitment to living by God's laws, these had shaped my identity. An identity that my family, mentors, and community all relied upon. To challenge these beliefs now would not just be a personal transformation, but a betrayal in the eyes of those I cherished. Yet the truth unveiled by Jesus loomed large, immovable as a mountain. His words, "I came to save you and make you a light to your people," echoed unceasingly in my heart. How could I turn away from such a profound revelation? I found myself in the midst of a spiritual tempest, caught between the doctrines of my past and the undeniable truth of my recent experience. The clarity of this new truth was overpowering, yet the decision of which path to follow seemed fraught with complexity. As I lay in the hospital bed, questions swirled through my mind. If Jesus really is the Messiah, does that mean my whole life has been based on a misconception? Or is it possible that this is the culmination of everything I've ever believed in? These thoughts echoed over and over, leaving me restless and unsure. Despite my confusion, one thing was clear: I needed answers. The experience I had wasn't just some fleeting illusion. It was a profound event that had deeply stirred my soul. I couldn't simply dismiss it, so I resolved to take two significant steps. Firstly, I would re-examine my long-standing beliefs with an open heart. Secondly, I decided to delve into understanding who Jesus really was. At that moment, I stood at a crucial juncture with no possibility of turning back. Once I left the hospital, the vivid memories of the visions I had seen, which some might call hell, haunted me incessantly. The desperate cries I heard there and Jesus' words reverberated in my thoughts. The teachings of Rabbi Avner, my lifelong guide and mentor, now seemed both foundational and burdensome. Torn between his teachings and this new compelling truth, I felt an immense pull. Rabbi Avner had led me through the Holy Scriptures, molding my perception of God's laws and our duties to our people. His instructions had been the bedrock of my existence, yet the realities I faced in those visions and the words of Jesus urged me to explore further. Amidst the turmoil, one book kept coming to mind: the New Testament. At the yeshiva, it had been strictly off-limits, a forbidden book, but now it seemed essential. With some hesitation, I picked it up and turned to the first page. Reading the opening words, "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David," broke through a mental barrier within me. I recalled Rabbi Avner once mentioning that the Messiah would descend from David's line. The notion that this Messiah could be Jesus had never occurred to me before, yet here it was, plainly before my eyes. As I delved deeper into the New Testament, I found that Jesus' teachings, actions, and very words mirrored the sacred texts I had studied back in yeshiva. The similarities were striking. His message of salvation struck a chord deep within me. All my life, I had endeavored to draw closer to God through my own efforts, only to discover that God had already completed the essential work and was offering salvation freely. This revelation made me reconsider not just my past, but also my future direction. While I respected and valued Rabbi Avner's teachings, it was becoming increasingly clear that God was guiding me along a new path. This wasn't merely an intellectual pursuit, it was a profound spiritual awakening. The truth stood unobscured before me, compelling me to embrace it. Amidst internal conflict and challenges, I decided to follow the path laid out by Jesus. Making this choice wasn't simple. It demanded a fundamental transformation of my beliefs and even my identity. Yet, the truth that illuminated from Jesus' teachings justified every sacrifice I made. For the first time, my life's purpose became clear. I realized that God had not only rescued me, but had also chosen me to spread His word to my people and beyond. This message wasn't meant solely for the Jewish community, but was a universal call to salvation for everyone. Embarking on this new path brought with it a profound peace and a deeper understanding of God's love. Throughout my life, I had endeavored to draw closer to Him, but now I realized that He had already embraced me. This understanding shone like a beacon, guiding each of my steps and inspiring me every morning. My life's mission has become to share Jesus' message of salvation. This journey respects my past while also forging my future. I am now wholly committed to spending the rest of my days spreading this profound truth, confident in its place within God's plan for me. This marks my fresh start. I am no longer merely a Levite. I am a testament to God's love and salvation. This path has not only redeemed my soul, but has also fulfilled my life's true calling.